What really happened behind closed doors in Geneva? And are we witnessing the beginning of a breakthrough or the calm before a dangerous storm? In a development that could reshape the balance of power in the Middle East, the United States and Iran have reportedly made significant progress in talks over Tehran's nuclear program. According to Badr al-Busaidi, who has been mediating the discussions, both sides achieved important progress during their latest round of negotiations in Geneva. While details remain scarce, the announcement alone has sparked intense speculation across diplomatic and security circles worldwide. The Omani foreign minister stated that both Washington and Tehran will now return to their respective capitals for consultations before resuming negotiations. The next phase is expected to take place at the technical level in Vienna next week, where nuclear experts and diplomats will work through the complex details that could determine the future of the agreement. However, officials from both the United States and Iran have so far refrained from making immediate public comments, signaling the sensitivity and high stakes of the discussions. Leading the Iranian delegation in Geneva was Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, a seasoned diplomat known for his firm stance on Iran's nuclear rights. On the American side, the delegation was headed by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, alongside Jared Kushner, who is also the son-in-law of former President Donald Trump. The composition of the U.S. team alone underscores the political weight attached to these talks and hints at the strategic calculations underway in Washington. Iranian state media reported that Tehran firmly reiterated its right to pursue a peaceful nuclear energy program. Iranian officials emphasized that uranium enrichment on Iranian soil is a sovereign right and categorically rejected demands to completely halt enrichment activities or ship its stockpiled uranium abroad. For Tehran, these demands cross what it considers a red line tied to national pride, technological advancement, and security autonomy. At the same time, diplomatic observers suggest that Iran may have signaled a willingness to offer limited concessions in exchange for meaningful sanctions relief. Years of economic restrictions have severely impacted Iran's economy, increasing internal pressure on its leadership. If sanctions were lifted or eased in a structured and verifiable manner, it could provide Tehran with economic breathing room while allowing Washington to claim progress in containing nuclear risks. The key question remains, can both sides find a formula that balances Iran's enrichment activities with international safeguards robust enough to satisfy Western concerns? Yet, while diplomacy moves forward in public, reports emerging from American media paint a far more alarming picture behind the scenes. According to those reports, if negotiations collapse, former President Donald Trump has considered the possibility of limited initial strikes targeting Iran's Revolutionary Guard or key nuclear facilities. There have even been suggestions that broader operations aimed at destabilizing Iran's leadership structure, including pressure on Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, have been discussed in strategic circles. Though such options are often part of contingency planning, their mere mention raises tensions dramatically. However, military leaders in Washington appear more cautious. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has reportedly warned about the risks of a prolonged and unpredictable conflict should military action be taken. Iran's network of regional allies and proxy groups, combined with its ballistic missile capabilities, means that any strike could quickly escalate into a wider confrontation stretching across the Middle East. What may begin as a limited operation could spiral into a multi-front crisis involving U.S. forces stationed throughout the region. Tehran, for its part, has issued stark warnings. Iranian officials have made it clear that any attack on its territory would trigger retaliation. Potential targets, they say, would include U.S. military bases in the Middle East as well as Israel. Such statements underscore the fragile and combustible environment in which these diplomatic efforts are unfolding. The region remains on edge, with every statement and counterstatement closely monitored by global powers. For now, the world watches and waits. The upcoming technical talks in Vienna could prove decisive. If negotiators can narrow their differences and draft a workable framework, it might open the door to de-escalation and economic recovery. If they fail, however, the consequences could extend far beyond the negotiating table, reshaping alliances, triggering military confrontations, and destabilizing global energy markets. So the question remains, is Geneva the first step toward a new nuclear understanding, or merely a temporary pause before confrontation? As diplomats prepare for the next round and political leaders weigh their options, one thing is certain: what happens next will not only determine the future of Iran's nuclear program, but also the security architecture of the entire Middle East. Stay with us as we continue to follow every development in this high-stakes diplomatic showdown.